just as you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll go from there and hopefully.
Yeah, if I bang on for too long, we just have to edit it out.
I'll give you
afterwards.
a kick.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Hi and welcome back to By the Furnace. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Neil Thomas from our sister company Gainsborough, a company with a really rich history and dedication to craft. They've worked on projects from Downton Abbey to Buckingham Palace, in the fashion industry, heritage sites and all sorts. So thank you for joining us, Neil. I'd love to just get stuck in and start talking about some of these projects.
Yeah, certainly. Well, thanks for having me. As you say, we get involved in some amazing projects, and obviously all of our workforce like to be involved in interesting projects as well. I think people always assume that we're sort of weaving classical style fabrics, which we do. But not only that, you know, we're not only working with National Trust, English Heritage, we work with some really interesting, more contemporary projects as well. We did the 100th anniversary car for Bentley, which was very much more contemporary, which led to doing the apartments that they're building in Miami.
Wow.
At the moment, and also some of the fashion jobs that we get involved with as well. We're probably best known for weaving furnishing fabrics, but we get involved with the fashion industry as well, and very well known couture designers like Giles Deacon, Roxanda Ilinčić, Paul Smith, Yves Saint Laurent. So there's some really interesting projects.
And I guess with your bespoke capabilities, sort of the same as us, the possibilities are endless, so which makes it very exciting.
Well, you know how exciting manufacturing can be working here. So the idea that we can translate a designer's idea into a finished woven fabric is always what we're looking to do.
And how involved do you get in that process? And how, you know, with all these lovely projects that you've been working on, how involved are you?
Well, I like to be pretty much hands-on with all of the bespoke projects that we have.
Yeah.
Because it's where I get the biggest kick, I guess. And particularly, I can also pass down to some of the workforce who are really highly skilled.
Yeah.
Many of them have been working in the industry for years.
Wow.
And they get a real kick from seeing some of our fabrics on Bridgerton or Downton Abbey, something like that, which is exciting, and it makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. It's so nice when you see the project going through your workshop, but then actually when you can see it at the end, in situ, it's just, it's very satisfying.
It's always the most satisfying thing, because obviously seeing a flat piece of fabric, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
But it's lifted to a whole nother level when you see it actually made up into a furnishings or into an amazing gown.
Yeah. And Gainsborough has been around since 1903
in its current format.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was founded by a chap called Reginald Warner, who had a love of design and manufacturing. It stems from his family. His father, Metford Warner, was the proprietor of a company called Jeffrey & Co, who were the first sort of major manufacturers of wallpapers, and was printing wallpapers for some of the great arts and craft designers in the late 19th century, like Owen Jones, Walter Crane, William Morris. And obviously Reginald grew up with that.
Yeah.
The last thing Metford wanted was for his son to be in the design industry. So he tried to tell him to get a proper job, you know, to be an accountant or a lawyer or something like that. But Reginald was fixed on being a weaver, particularly. So his father sent him off to the English silk weaving company, who were based in Ipswich at the time, which was about half an hour drive from where we currently are. And he learnt his industry there. He did a 5-year apprenticeship there. And with some infighting going on with the English silk weaving company. So they closed the company, which was a perfect opportunity for Reginald to buy some of their machinery and buy their archive, which we still have today, and set up his own business in Sudbury.
Wow. Okay, and when did you get involved? And when did when did you get involved with Gainsborough, but also when did you get into the industry?
I got involved with Gainsborough completely by accident, as probably so often happens.
Yeah.
I grew up in East London, didn't really know much about Suffolk at all, but had the idea that I would want to do something in design. So I went off to work with Royal Dalton in Stoke-on-Trent, but hated every minute of it. So I thought, well, it's simple as that. I'm going to quit my job and move back home. But by this time, my parents, who had always wanted to move out of London, had moved to a small village in Suffolk. So I ended up moving back with them, with maxed out credit cards, dirty washing, all the usual sort of thing, and I needed a job fast.
Yeah.
So the first job I saw in the paper was at Gainesborough in their quality control department.
Oh wow.
So I moved along, went along there. I didn't even know what they did. I just needed a job. I was very overdressed. I put a suit and a tie on to go to a weaving shed, which was quite embarrassing when I arrived there. But I got the job, and within about 6 months, the managing director saw that I was really keen on the business, loved to see what they were doing, and took me along to the first trade show that we did, which was Decorex in 1989. And they could see me when I was talking to the customers. I absolutely loved it, every bit of it.
And
A complete passion. Well, you have to have for the textile industry because there's no money in it. Yeah. So you have to have a passion for what you're doing.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. And I think, and now look, you're running the show there, so that's
yes,
great.
myself and 2 colleagues bought the company from the existing family in 2004, simply because there was nobody in the original family that wanted to work in the industry any longer. So it was a great opportunity for us to put our own stamp on the business.
Yeah, wow. And you've got this incredible archive, but you do a lot of bespoke work as well. How can you talk us through the process?
Well, everything that we do, essentially, even the bespoke work and even our standard collections, all stem from our archive. As I touched on earlier, we have the archive of the English Silk Weaving Company, and over the last 120 years, Gainsborough have built up their own archive. We literally keep everything that we've ever done. So not only a sample of the fabrics that we'd woven, the yarns that are used, and the weaving information that we need to reproduce any of these fabrics going forward.
Yeah.
But as I said, our archive is there. Even if it's a more contemporary project, we always start in the archive so we can get the right yarn substrates, so we can get the right weave structures, and for standard collections, we use it as a base again. So we might make the design slightly smaller or slightly bigger, change the yarn content from a silk to a cotton or a wool or a linen.
And it just completely changes the
It just changes it, yeah, and we can adapt it for different markets. And only asking a 20-metre minimum order for a bespoke fabric is usually accessible to most designers.
And do you find designers come to you with an idea and they want your help to sort of bring that design to life, or do they come to you with exactly what they want?
It's a bit of a variation. Obviously, the most straightforward things, if they know exactly what they're looking for, they've already selected a design that they like, but they want it woven in a different colour, for example. That's probably the most straightforward thing. Then, obviously, we can change the scale of the design also. Some designers will come to us with a fabric that they just want to have reproduced. It might be an antique sample, so we can reproduce it for them. But other people literally just have a seed of an idea in their head. So we work with them to translate that idea into a finished woven fabric, which is probably the most in-depth process. Probably takes the longest, probably be about sort of 8 to 12 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
To have something that's completely unique and completely bespoke.
And so completely bespoke, the lead time is about 12
Yes,
weeks.
it's between 8 and 12 weeks, depending on the style of fabric and how much is ordered.
Yeah, of course, it just varies, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've got a nice blend in the mill of having some older looms, sort of first generation power looms, still using punch cards and wooden shuttles, and obviously more modern electronic looms, rapier looms, which are much faster. But a weaver from 200 years ago walking into the mill would know exactly what the new looms are doing now.
So, and how, I wanted to ask you about that. How do you know, it's a fine balance between using traditional techniques and craftsmanship, but also innovation, and you're talking about new machinery.
Yeah, we don't bring in new machinery for the sake of bringing in new machinery.
Yeah.
The only reason that we would do it is if it benefits
There's
the finished product.
Yeah.
So that's the reason. So even the new looms that we use, we have them specially built to our requirements. I mean, we're Jacquard weavers, so it's the Jacquard that's the most important part of any loom. So those are specially built to our requirements, so that we have individual thread control, giving us amazing detail in the design area. So it's not necessarily about speed; it's about consistency and weaving something beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you often invite people? Do people come and see, you know, when someone orders a bespoke fabric, do they come and see it through production?
As much as possible. We always, even if they can't come to the mill, we like to take a video of the processes that go into manufacturing the fabric, so that they can either pass it on to their customer or keep it in their own archive.
Yeah.
But if people can come along to the mill, they usually find it really beneficial and interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice to hear, because I think it's so important, and we love to invite people down to the foundry and show them a bit about behind the scenes and the work that's going in to create that one-off piece, because essentially you'll have a standard collection, but everything's made to order.
Yeah,
so
no, exactly. And also I think it's also good for the staff, because
Yeah.
they can feel a little bit isolated. They're just manufacturing something on a day-by-day basis. But if they can chat to the designer who's walking round the mill, and that's really beneficial. They
it's
really
a great
get
chance to show.
Yeah, they get an in-depth look into how the designer's thinking and what they're going to use the fabric for.
Yeah.
And obviously, they've also got great ideas. You know, many of our workers have been there for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So they also have some really good input into because even though I might have a fantastic idea of how to weave a fabric, they can turn that into reality by making it more of a commercial decision. You know, or it's not worth doing it that way because it's quicker if you do it this way.
It's getting that feedback to know.
Yeah, and that's how we always come up with a great product.
Yeah.
Because it's not just one person feeding in to the process.
Yeah.
It's a real team effort.
Yeah, that's nice to know. And do you get a lot of images or case studies from the bespoke projects that you're working on, or is a lot of it under?
We get some.
Yeah.
We get some in reality. I'd love to have images of everything that we do, but a lot of it is for private houses, and I can't expect people to send images of their private houses. And some of the designers we work with are so busy, they literally don't have time to do that. So if I can, I like to try and do it myself.
Yeah.
If I'm allowed.
Yeah.
But in an ideal world, we'd have beautiful images of lots of things.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we have to be quite discreet about some of the interiors that we deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's new and exciting? What's coming? What can we expect from?
Well, we've got
Gainsborough?
we're working on new collections at the moment, which, as I've mentioned, stem from our archive. So we've broken up the new collection into two different launch dates, one in September and one in January. So we'll be seeing some sort of mid-century style fabrics from our archives, from the 40s and 50s, the time of utility fabrics, as they were known at the time, just after the Second World War. Yarns and dye stuffs were quite hard to get hold of, so the designers had to be quite creative in what they were using, and came up with some amazing things which are ever popular. We've constantly been weaving them since then, but the reality is now, I think, particularly with people that really understand craft and artisanship, it's a collection that they'll really buy into.
Yeah. And a question that I will be asking everyone that comes to buy the furnace is, if you could go back to your younger self and give yourself one bit of advice within the industry, what would that be?
Well, I would probably say make a decision. Whether it's correct or incorrect, always make a decision and move on something. It's no good just sitting there not doing anything. So you can learn just as much by making a mistake as you can by getting something right. So yeah, make a decision is what my advice would be.
That's a very nice bit of advice. Thank you, Neil.
Not at all, not at all. It's been nice to chat.
And you. Thank you, Neil. Thank you everyone for joining us today for our By the Furnace series. We'll hopefully see you for the next one, and head over to our Instagram for more information, and remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.